The moment my wife Sierra told another man to rub sunscreen on her bare back while I stood 3 feet away holding her drink, I knew our marriage was over. What I didn't know was how much fun destroying her would be. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Eli, honey, if you're jealous, maybe you should just go home, she said, with that fake sweet voice she used when she wanted to humiliate me in public. Her friends Melanie and Jordan giggled like teenagers. Grant Morrison, the golden boy lifeguard she'd been eyeing all week, grinned as his hands worked the lotion across her shoulders. I'm Eliot Brogan, 43 years old, IT consultant, and apparently the biggest joke at Clearwater Lake Resort. At least, that's what everyone seemed to think as they watched my wife practically purr under another man's touch. You know what? Great idea, I said, setting down her mojito in the sand. I think I will go home. The laughter died. Sierra's head snapped up. Wait, what? I was kidding, Eli. Don't be such a... But I was already walking toward the parking lot, pulling out my phone to book the next flight back to Albany. Behind me, I heard Melanie's voice. Oh my God, Sierra, he's actually leaving. Good. Let them figure out how to get home. The 3-hour flight gave me plenty of time to think. 15 years of marriage, and this was how it ended? Not with a fight or even a conversation, but with my wife asking her boy toy to apply sunscreen while I held her drink like some kind of servant. By the time I landed in Albany, I'd already transferred half our savings to a new account. By the time I reached our house in Colony, I'd blocked Sierra's number. She could call all she wanted. I was done listening. Our house felt different when I walked in alone. Cleaner somehow, like a crime scene after the body's been removed. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat in my leather chair, the one Sierra always complained about. For the first time in months, I felt peaceful. That peace lasted exactly 12 hours. The pounding on my door started at 7 a.m. I ignored it, but then I heard Mrs. Lapierre's voice through the window. Eli, dear, I know you're in there. We need to talk. Mrs. Lapierre was 78, lived next door, and knew everyone's business in a 6-block radius. If she wanted to talk, it was important. I opened the door to find her holding a casserole dish and wearing her most serious expression. So, she said, pushing past me into the kitchen, you're back early from your romantic getaway. Did you happen to see what your wife posted on Facebook last night? My stomach dropped. I don't have Facebook anymore. Well, you should probably look. She pulled out her phone, fingers moving surprisingly fast across the screen. Here, posted at 11:30 p.m. The photo showed Sierra and Grant at some beachside bar, his arm around her waist, both of them laughing. The caption read, "When your husband storms off like a child, at least there's good company to console you." Vacation vibes. New friends. Living my best life. 47 likes. 23 comments, all from people I knew. People from our neighborhood, Sierra's work, the gym we went to together. There's more, Mrs. Lapierre said quietly. She scrolled down. Another photo. Grant feeding Sierra a strawberry. Another, them dancing, her head on his shoulder. How long has this been going on? I asked. Longer than the vacation, dear. I've seen him at your house twice when you were traveling for work. Tall boy, drives that ridiculous red Camaro, parks it right in your driveway like he owns the place. The bourbon from last night turned to acid in my stomach. Did you get pictures? Mrs. Lapierre smiled, and for the first time, I understood why people called her the neighborhood watch. Oh, honey, I got everything. That afternoon, I drove to the Lantern, the bar downtown where everyone went to see and be seen. If Sierra was going to make our business public, I needed to know what people were saying. Nina Kowalski had been bartending at the Lantern for 15 years. She'd seen 3 mayors get drunk and confess their sins, Watched half the town council have affairs and never said a word unless you asked the right questions. Well, well, she said as I sat down. Eliot Brogan, heard you had quite the vacation. That's one way to put it. I ordered a beer. What are people saying? You want the truth or the polite version? Truth. Nina wiped down a glass, considering her words. Most people think Sierra's lost her mind, flaunting some young guy on social media while her husband's right there. That's not cheating, that's just cruel. And the rest? The rest think you're a pushover who had it coming. I took a long drink. What do you think? I think Sierra's been coming in here for months with her trainer boy, thinking nobody would notice. I think she's been planning this for a while, and you just gave her the excuse she needed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Eli, it's me. Please call. This is all a misunderstanding. S. I showed Nina the message. She laughed. Misunderstanding. Right. Like when I misunderstood my ex-husband with his secretary in our bed. What did you do about that? Nina's smile turned sharp. Let's just say he learned to be more careful about where he parked. I left the lantern with a plan forming in my mind. If Sierra wanted to play games, I'd show her what a real player looked like. The next morning, I went to our gym, Peak Fitness. Sierra and I had been members for 3 years, but I'd always felt out of place among the fitness influencers and personal trainers. Today, I had a different purpose. Grant Morrison was everything I wasn't. 6'2", perfectly tanned, with the kind of smile that made women forget they were married. He was training some soccer mom when I walked in, but his eyes found me immediately. Hey there, Eli. His voice carried across the weight room. How's the back feeling, man? You looked pretty tense at the lake. Conversation stopped. Everyone was watching now, waiting to see how the cuckolded husband would respond to the golden boy's taunt. I walked over slowly, letting the tension build. Grant straightened up, suddenly aware that I was bigger than he'd remembered. Not taller, but broader. 15 years of desk work had given me a gut, but 20 years before that had given me shoulders. My back's fine, Grant. How's your car? His smile faltered. My car? Yeah, I heard someone slashed your tires last night. Real shame. Hope you have good insurance. The color drained from his face. Me what? I was home all evening. Mrs. Lapierre can vouch for me. We played cards until midnight. I leaned closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. But if I were you, I'd be more careful about where I parked. Lot of crazy people out there. I walked away before he could respond, but I felt his eyes on my back. Let him wonder. Let him worry. That evening, I sat in Sierra's home office going through her laptop. She'd never been good with passwords, still used our anniversary date for everything. The folder labeled personal training was password protected, but Grant 2023 worked on the first try. 3 months of messages, photos, plans. My wife had been having an affair since February, and I'd been too stupid to see it. But what made my hands shake wasn't the betrayal, it was the contempt. Eli's traveling again next week, she'd written. My house Tuesday night? Can't wait, Grant had replied. Does he suspect anything? Please. He barely notices I exist unless I'm doing his laundry. I could bring you to dinner and he'd probably just ask if you wanted seconds. The jokes got worse. Screenshots of my texts to her, shared with Grant and mocked. Photos of gifts I'd bought her, now given to him. Even our wedding photo, with Grant's face photoshopped over mine. I printed everything. Every message, every photo, every cruel joke. By 3 a.m., I had a file 3 inches thick. My phone rang. Sierra calling from the resort. Eli, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for days. This whole thing got blown out of proportion. Grant is just a friend and... Sierra. Yes? I know about February. I know about March. I know about every Tuesday night when I was in Boston. Silence. I know about the photos, the messages, the jokes. I know you gave him the watch I bought you for Valentine's Day. Eli, please, let me explain. I know about your birthday party next week. The one you're planning at our house. The surprise you and Melanie were arranging for Grant. Her breathing changed. How do you... The same way I know you've been telling people I'm impotent. The same way I know you opened a credit card in my name to buy him that gold chain. I never... Sierra, I have everything. Every text, every email, every photo. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay at the resort until I'm ready to deal with you. You're going to cancel your little party, and you're going to start thinking about how you want to handle this divorce. You can't just... I hung up and turned off the phone. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. I visited a lawyer, opened new accounts, and had copies of all Sierra's messages sent to a secure email address. But most importantly, I started making calls. Sierra's boss, Patricia Chen, had always liked me. We'd met at company parties, and she'd often mentioned how lucky Sierra was to have such a supportive husband. I wondered if she'd feel the same way after seeing the messages Sierra had sent about her boring job and uptight bitch boss. The anonymous email went out Tuesday morning, with selected screenshots attached. Nothing illegal, just unprofessional. Sierra calling in sick to spend time with Grant. Sierra using company resources for personal business. Sierra bad-mouthing clients and colleagues in text messages. By noon, Sierra was calling from Patricia's office. What did you do? Her voice was shaking. I shared some information. She's putting me on administrative leave. She says there's going to be an investigation. Maybe you should have thought about that before you used the company laptop to send naked pictures to your boyfriend. Those were private. Not anymore. I hung up and went to lunch. Thursday was the town's annual summer festival, held in Central Park. Food trucks, live music, and half the population of Colony wandering around in the heat. I'd been going for years, usually trailing behind Sierra while she networked and posed for photos. This year, I went alone. And I wasn't the only one. I found Nina working the beer tent, Mrs. Lapierre manning the bake sale, and Tommy Rodriguez, my old gym buddy who'd moved away last year, visiting family. Word traveled fast in small towns, and by the time I'd made one circuit of the festival, I'd heard the same story from 6 different people. Sierra and Grant had come back from the lake that morning. She'd been fired, not laid off, fired, and he'd been dropped from Peak Fitness after complaints about his unprofessional conduct with married clients. They'd shown up at the festival together, trying to act like nothing had happened. There, Tommy said, pointing toward the bandstand. By the funnel cake truck. Sierra looked terrible. Her vacation tan couldn't hide the stress lines around her eyes, and the sundress that had looked so good on Facebook hung loose on her frame. Grant stood beside her, scanning the crowd like he expected trouble. Smart boy. I walked over slowly, letting them see me coming. Sierra's face went white. Grant's hand moved to her lower back, a possessive gesture that made my teeth clench. Eli. Sierra's voice was barely a whisper. We need to talk. I think we've talked enough. But since you made our business public, maybe we should have this conversation where everyone can hear it. A crowd was gathering. Mrs. Lapierre appeared at my left shoulder. Nina materialized on my right, holding her phone up to record. Tommy stood behind me, arms crossed. You want to know what happened at the lake? I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. My wife asked her boyfriend to rub sunscreen on her back while I held her drink. When I objected, she told me to go home if I was jealous. Murmurs from the crowd. Someone said, "Oh my God." So I did go home. And while I was gone, she posted pictures of herself with him all over social media. Pictures of them dancing, feeding each other, acting like teenagers. Sierra tried to speak, but I kept going. What she didn't post were the text messages. 3 months of them planning their affair in my house, in my bed with my money, laughing about what a fool I was, sharing private photos of me, giving him gifts I'd bought for her. Grant stepped forward. Look, man, this is between you and... No. I turned to face him. This is between me and everyone who saw those Facebook posts. Everyone who thought I was too weak to stand up for myself. Everyone who wondered why I let my wife humiliate me in public. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I'd prepared. Screenshots, photos, receipts, everything. Here's what really happened. Here's what she really thinks of me, of you, of everyone in this town. Here's what she said about her job, her friends, her family. I started reading messages aloud. Sierra's cruel jokes about her co-workers, her complaints about boring town events, her plans to take Grant to Hawaii using money from our joint account. With each message, the crowd's sympathy shifted. Sierra had made herself the victim on social media, but the texts revealed someone cold, calculating, and contemptuous of everyone around her. "Stop," she whispered. "Please stop. You didn't stop when you were laughing about me with him. You didn't stop when you were planning to throw a party in my house. You didn't stop when you were stealing from our accounts to buy him jewelry." Grant grabbed my arm. "That's enough." I looked at his hand, then at his face. "Take your hand off me." "Or what?" "Or I'll show everyone the video you sent her last week, the one where you're wearing my bathrobe in my bedroom, talking about how good it feels to sleep in my bed." His hand dropped. The crowd gasped. Sierra froze. 5 seconds later, they were gone. That night, I left a message at Grant's place. Sunscreen spelling homewrecker, liar, coward, across his shiny red Camaro. The cameras conveniently glitched for 12 hours. By morning, Sierra was unemployed and homeless. The house, the cars, the money, all mine. Her friends disappeared, her sister stopped answering, and her lover skipped town. Karma moves faster than justice. A week later, Sierra found me at the Lantern. She looked wrecked. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Eli, please. 15 years. 15 years of me working while you partied. 15 years of loyalty traded for cheap thrills. You made your choices." She cried, begged, promised change. I told her quietly, "I built a life. You just lived in it. Now you get to build your own." She said I'd destroyed her life. "No," I said. "I just stopped protecting you from the consequences of your own." The divorce was clean. The prenup held. She left with a car, a few $1,000s, and a reputation that would haunt her forever. In a town like Colony, people never forget. Grant moved to Florida, working at a used car lot. Sierra bounced between temp jobs and pity from old friends. I kept the house, the business, and my peace. Months later, she stumbled into my divorce party, drunk and bitter. "You ruined me," she screamed. I laughed. "You ruined yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it." When she threw her drink, it missed. That was the last time I saw her. 6 months later, her lawyer sent a letter begging for reconciliation. I didn't finish reading it. A year later, her friend told me she was working in a call center, living with her parents. I nodded. She finally learned what real work feels like. Now, I still live in the same house, still run my business, still drink at the Lantern on Fridays. But people look at me differently now, not as a victim, as a man who drew the line and didn't flinch. Sierra thought she'd married a pushover. She was wrong. She thought she could cheat, lie, and walk away untouched. She was wrong about that too. The last I heard, she got engaged again, to a divorced father struggling with debt. Not the upgrade she wanted, but the one she earned. Some people say I went too far, that I should have forgiven her. But those people have never stood on a beach holding their spouse's drink while watching them flirt with someone else. They've never read the messages, the mockery, the betrayal. I don't hate her anymore. Hate takes effort. I don't love her either. Love needs respect, and she lost mine long ago. What's left is worse than hate, indifference. She once said it was just sunscreen. Turns out, it was the most expensive lotion in history. It cost her everything, and it was worth every penny.